You're not stuck because of lack of talent. You're stuck because of repeating patterns. You wake up with the same thoughts, take the same actions, feel the same doubts, and wonder why nothing changes. When you force yourself to break the pattern, everything shifts. Your habits, your confidence, your future. But if you don't, you stay trapped in a life that never truly begins. This is your moment to break free. In a few moments, you'll discover how to break the cycle that's been secretly holding your future hostage. One, you are living in loops you didn't even choose. You wake up, drink the same coffee, speak the same complaints, and live the same day. Again, and again, and again. The pattern you're in, it didn't come from your vision. It came from your convenience, from your survival, but not from your greatness. And the longer you stay trapped inside it, the more the walls of your potential close in. The Bible says, "Be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind." Romans 12:2. That's not a passive suggestion, that is a divine command. The world wants you in cycles. Heaven wants you in growth. The reason patterns are so powerful is because they are subtle. No alarm goes off when you slide into repetition. But that's the danger. Life becomes predictable. Predictability becomes comfort. And comfort becomes captivity. It is the most dangerous form of failure, one that wears the mask of normal. To get out, you must first see clearly. You must become aware of the invisible routines that are dictating your results. Write them down. Audit them. Replace them one at a time with habits that aim toward vision instead of repetition. Abraham Lincoln failed in business, lost several elections, and suffered a nervous breakdown. Many believed his destiny was mediocrity, but he rewrote the script. He studied tirelessly, practiced law, and trained himself in oratory. He changed his patterns, and in doing so changed the fate of a nation. 2. The patterns you tolerate become the limits you obey. The patterns you accept, you become loyal to. And the moment you give your loyalty to a pattern, it begins to shape your very identity. It seeps into your conversations, dictates your habits, and even redefines your beliefs. It is no longer just something you do, it becomes who you are. The mind, that remarkable instrument, begins to settle into these grooves like a cartwheel worn into a dirt path. Soon, you are no longer deciding your direction. The path decides it for you. And you, without protest, call it your life. The ancient proverb speaks truth that has echoed through centuries. For as he thinketh in his heart, so is he. Proverbs 23:7. It does not say as he hopes or as he wishes. It says, as he thinketh. Thought patterns are not passive. They are architects. They design your decisions, paint your perception, and govern your growth. If you persist in thoughts of fear, mediocrity, or victimhood, the outer structure of your life will eventually match the inner blueprint. And yet, many believe themselves free. But what is freedom? Freedom is not the mere absence of chains. Freedom is the power to choose. If you do not consciously challenge your default patterns, then your freedom is an illusion, a mirage seen by a traveler who never leaves his desert. For what most call personality is simply a practiced routine, rehearsed so often that it becomes muscle memory for the soul. The most dangerous phrase you can ever utter is this: "This is just how I am." That phrase has shackled more souls than any iron chain, because the moment you accept that excuse, you surrender your authority to change. You concede your throne, you give away your dominion over yourself. The truth is, nothing binds a person more tightly than the belief that they cannot be different. To rise above this, you must become a challenger of comfort. You must not merely act. You must act with intention. Intentionality breaks patterns. It inserts friction where once there was ease, and it is in that friction that transformation begins. When you wake earlier than your comfort desires, you're not just adjusting your schedule, you are announcing war against your own inertia. When you choose to read instead of gossip, or to create instead of complain, you are breaking the unconscious agreements that once governed your day. This is not a call to dramatic reinvention overnight. It is a call to disruption, a call to introduce resistance in areas where you once flowed mindlessly, because growth is not born from peace, it is born from pressure. The mind must be trained like a wild horse, otherwise it will always return to its base instincts. Benjamin Franklin. As a young man, he recognized that his life lacked order, but instead of rationalizing his chaos, he rebelled against it. He constructed a system of personal reinvention. 13 virtues, a daily journal, a deliberate schedule. He made himself a subject of his own experiment, and through this structure he became one of the greatest thinkers of his time. He did not wait for change. He authored it, and what he refused to tolerate, he was no longer bound by. That is a universal law. What you permit will persist. But what you challenge begins to weaken. If you look closely at any man or woman of greatness, you will find a point in their life where they rejected the default. They interrupted their rhythm. They replaced ease with effort and comfort with consciousness, and by doing so, they broke the loop. Your mind will resist at first. It will cry out for the familiar. It will tempt you with the luxury of doing nothing. But that voice is not your ally. That voice is a remnant of the old pattern, desperate to keep you small. You must speak back to it with new commands. Speak discipline, speak vision, speak identity, not as what you are now, but what you are becoming. Because ultimately life is not shaped by what happens to you, but by what you habitually choose. And the power to choose is what makes you free. Not someday, not when circumstances align, but now, in the next breath, in the next decision, in the next... The patterns you disrupt today become the identity you transform tomorrow. And in time, your very life will become the visible evidence of your invisible decision to change. 3. Change begins the moment you decide you've had enough. There is a silent scream in the soul of every person who's tired of being tired. It does not shout, but it weighs. It presses into the chest at night and greets you each morning before your feet touch the floor. This scream is the signal of potential denied, of greatness postponed. It whispers a haunting truth: you were meant for more. You feel it when the days blur together, when dreams shrink to the size of to-do lists, and when the mirror reflects a face you barely recognize. This is not just fatigue. This is the ache of stagnation. And let it be known, change does not begin with a strategy. It begins with frustration, with the deep internal breaking point where the cost of staying the same finally outweighs the fear of change. Ecclesiastes 3:1 gives us a divine reminder. To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under the heaven. Seasons don't wait for convenience. They arrive when they are necessary, and so too does transformation. Not when everything feels perfect, but when something inside you decides, I can't do this anymore. What's dangerous is not failure, it's comfort in the wrong place. People endure jobs they despise out of routine. They stay in relationships that suffocate their joy. They repeat routines that drain the life out of their mornings, not because they choose them, but because they've accepted them. Habit becomes a hypnotist, and many are sleepwalking through lives they never consciously designed. But everything changes the moment you decide, no more. That act of decision, however quiet, unleashes power. It does not erase the challenges. It elevates your spirit above them. Suddenly, the mountain you feared looks smaller from the summit of resolve, because your circumstances have not changed, but you have. And once you change, the world must adjust in response. You need not wait for a grand plan. Begin small. Clean one neglected corner of your environment. Wake just 1 hour earlier than your usual. These may seem like pebbles, but pebbles start avalanches. Movement begets momentum, and the spirit feeds off motion. Harriet Tubman was born into bondage, a world that defined her as property. But in the midst of chains and cruelty, she made a decision. She ran. Not once, but repeatedly. She risked her life to rescue others. Each journey rooted in a moment that declared, I will not die in this. Her transformation did not begin with freedom. It began with a decision to seek it. Her legacy wasn't born from ease. It was born from exhaustion that became resolve. That same seed is in you. Not the desire for escape, but the courage for rebirth. Your life does not have to be a slow surrender. It can be a revolution. But the revolution must start within. Not tomorrow, not when it feels easier, but that tension you feel. The longing, the dissatisfaction, the low hum of sadness is not your enemy. It is the alarm clock of the soul. It is trying to wake you. Answer it. Answer it with action, with courage, with the quiet declaration, I will not continue like this, because everything changes when you do. The first domino falls the moment you say, enough, and with that, the soul begins its march back to purpose. 4. If you do not interrupt the pattern, it will inherit your destiny. What you do daily is far more powerful than what you do occasionally. It's not the spark of inspiration that defines your path, it's the steady flame. Repetition is not boring. It is formative. It carves grooves into your character, molding your instincts, your beliefs, and ultimately your destiny. Every repeated action is a vote cast for the person you are becoming. Galatians 6:7 reminds us with unshakable clarity, "Be not deceived, God is not mocked. For whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap." This is not only a truth about generosity or justice, it is a law that governs habits. It means what you sow into the soil of your days, whether excellence or apathy, order or disorder, will grow. You may not see the crop in a week or even a month, but it is growing. If your daily rhythm is chaos, the harvest will not be peace. If your pattern is procrastination, the outcome will not be excellence. You cannot sow thorns and expect roses. And yet many live in frustration, not because life is unfair, but because they are reaping what they never realized they planted. The future isn't built in mountaintop moments, it is built in the valley of small rituals. The overlooked, the ordinary, the invisible choices, these are the true architects of your outcome. The world rewards discipline, not drama. It honors persistence over performance. But change requires disruption. You cannot merely hope for a better life. You must build one. And building demands a shift in rhythm. Not a revolution, but an interruption. Something that forces awareness into the automated parts of your day. Place visual reminders of your goals in places where distractions live. Write, reflect, reframe your space. Let your environment become your ally instead of your enemy. The brain is obedient to cues. Change the cue and you change the behavior. If your living space screams laziness, it will cradle your complacency. But if it whispers clarity, intention, and purpose, you will rise to meet it. Thomas Edison, a boy once dismissed by teachers as too slow to learn. He could have believed it. He could have surrendered his mind to the expectations of mediocrity. But his mother refused. She created a new pattern for him at home, one of deep thinking and tireless pursuit. She sowed belief into the soil of his soul, and he watered it daily with action. The result? Not one, not 10, but over 1,000 patents. The light that now fills our homes began in the daily persistence of one man. Edison did not discover electricity by accident. He summoned it through the repetition of effort, through the decision to show up again and again, even when failure greeted him at the door. You too have that power. Not in some distant dream, but in the present ritual. Do not wait for perfect conditions. Begin today. Begin where you are. Begin with what you have. Because what you do consistently will create what you experience eventually. Your daily choices are sowing seeds, and harvest day always comes. Choose your seeds wisely, because destiny is not a destination, it is a direction, and direction is determined by your repeated steps. So step forward, step daily, and step deliberately. Your future is watching. 5. You cannot build a new life with the old blueprint. A life change without a mind change is simply a shift in scenery. You can pack your bags, relocate across the globe, switch careers, or surround yourself with new people, but if your inner framework remains untouched, the patterns will repeat. Like a shadow, your mindset follows you. And it is not geography that determines growth, it is the blueprint of belief that does. Matthew 9:17 gives us a powerful metaphor. Neither do men put new wine into old bottles, but they put new wine into new bottles, and both are preserved. The message is clear. You cannot pour a new reality into an old identity. The container must match the contents. Otherwise, both will be lost. And that container is your mind. Many people crave transformation, but few are willing to confront the assumptions they carry. They build a new life on top of an old mindset and wonder why the foundation still cracks. But if the blueprint you are building from is broken, no amount of surface change will hold. Who told you success wasn't for people like you? Who made you believe that discipline was reserved for others? These are not innocent beliefs, they are construction lines etched deep into the walls of your thinking. And as long as they remain, they will dictate every decision you make. To live differently, you must think differently. Not just once, but daily. You must become an architect of belief, tearing down the faulty structures of limitation and rebuilding with bricks of truth and possibility. This begins with language. Speak about yourself, not as a prisoner of your past, but as the pioneer of your future. Your words are the scaffolding of your next level. Then move to structure. Redesign your day to reflect where you want to go, not where you've been. Align your habits with the horizon you see. Wake up with purpose. Journal the new vision. Study what builds the person you seek to become. Create rituals that reinforce your new identity, not the one you're leaving behind. Booker T. Washington, born into the bondage of slavery, he inherited nothing but chains and silence, but he refused to follow the blueprint of his birth. He chose education, he chose resilience, and by building brick by brick physically and mentally, he laid the foundation for the Tuskegee Institute. He mentored generations not because the world made room for him, but because he made room within himself for the future he desired. He became a leader not by chance, but by choice. Not by luck, but by construction. He rebuilt his mind to hold the vision of what was possible, and then he lived into that vision. He understood the principle: new outcomes require new architecture. So if the life you want feels too far, do not abandon the dream. Change the plan you're building from. Evaluate the beliefs you've normalized. Replace inherited limitations with intentional affirmations. Upgrade your internal operating system to match the level of life you seek. The future is not blocked by external barriers, it is delayed by internal blueprints. Begin the demolition. Clear the mental space. Design with conviction, and remember, transformation does not begin with a plane ticket or a resignation letter. It begins the moment you say, "My mind must grow first." Because when the mind expands, the world follows. And when the container changes, it can finally carry the blessing it was always meant to hold. Excuses are the language of the pattern. Every time you say, "I can't," you are not just making a statement, you are adding another brick to the wall that has already kept you stuck. It is a subtle but dangerous sentence. Because what follows, "I can't," is rarely the truth. It's an excuse dressed up in a suit and tie, polished, respectable, but false. Excuses are clever. They wear the mask of logic and drape themselves in the clothing of reason. "I can't afford it. I don't have the time. It's just not who I am." These phrases feel safe. They protect us from discomfort. But make no mistake, they are not guards, they are cages. Romans 1:20 offers a sharp wake-up call. For the invisible things of him from the creation of the world are clearly seen, so that they are without excuse. If creation itself is accountable, then so are we. The stars obey their design. The tides follow their rhythm. The trees yield fruit in season. Everything made by God fulfills its purpose. So why not you? Excuses are not rooted in lack of ability. They are rooted in fear, and fear wears many disguises. Sometimes it looks like wisdom. Other times it mimics humility. But at its core, fear convinces you that staying where you are is safer than becoming who you could be. Excuses become the vocabulary of limitation. They delay your decisions. They drain your confidence. They dim the vision God planted within you. They make a prison of potential, but you have the power to change your language. You have the power to speak a new future. Replace "I can't" with "How can I?" Turn "I'll try later" into "I'll start now." Swap "I'm not ready" with "I'm willing to begin." Words are not just sounds, they are seeds. Speak defeat and you plant despair. Speak action and you harvest progress. And above all, refuse to let comfort be your compass. Comfort seeks the path of least resistance, but growth demands resistance. Just as muscles grow through tension, so too does character. Every act of discipline breaks the hold of excuse. Every moment of courage silences the voice of fear. George Washington Carver, born into slavery, raised in the ashes of war, he had every reason to bow before circumstance. He was denied education, stripped of privilege, and raised in obscurity. Yet he refused to live a life explained by excuses. He walked miles to attend school. He rose before the sun to study. He made a laboratory out of nature, unlocking the secrets of the peanut, sweet potato, and other crops to revolutionize agriculture in the South. Carver didn't wait for the world to make it easy. He made it possible, not because he had access, but because he had resolve. He didn't allow the narrative of "I can't" to author his story. He authored a new one, word by word, action by action, choice by choice, and that same pen is in your hand. You may not control the ink life gave you. You may not have chosen your starting chapter, but you are responsible for the next one. You are not too late. You are not too broken. You are not too far behind. Begin now. Begin where you are. But begin without excuse. Let your progress become louder than your past. Let your faith become stronger than your fear. Excuses may explain where you are, but only effort will take you where you're meant to be. Write your next chapter in courage, not in comfort. Faith is the weapon that shatters the cycle. The cycle that keeps you small does not break by accident. It breaks by belief. Chains do not fall because time passes. They fall because someone refuses to accept them as permanent. It is not comfort that shatters limitations, but conviction. Deep, daring, unrelenting faith. Faith is not a soft whisper echoing in a quiet room. It is a violent refusal to accept what is, in pursuit of what could be. Hebrews 11:1 defines it with piercing clarity. Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Evidence. Not theory, not mere hope, but evidence. A firm and immovable stand built on an invisible foundation. The truth is, you are not stuck because of what you lack. You are stuck because you do not believe that what you already have is enough. It is not the absence of resources, but the absence of resolve that keeps you circling the same mountain. Faith is not passive. It is not waiting with fingers crossed. It is movement without guarantee. It is action in the absence of evidence. It is walking forward into the fog, trusting that your next step will land somewhere solid. Faith is not a feeling. It is a You do not need clarity to begin. You need courage. Start where you are, with what you have. Say what you mean. Do what you can. Believe that your words have weight, your effort has value, and your persistence will yield profit. Every seed you sow in faith pushes back against the story that says you were meant to stay small. Jim Thorpe, a Native American athlete, born into poverty in the late 1800s during a time when people of his background were given no space to dream, let alone to excel. Orphaned at a young age, stripped of privilege, mocked and marginalized, Thorpe had every excuse to give up. But what he lacked in advantage, he made up for in belief. At the 1912 Stockholm Olympics, his shoes were stolen just before his event. With nothing else available, Thorpe rummaged through the trash and found two mismatched shoes, one too big, one too small. He stuffed a sock into one shoe, laced them both up, and won gold. He did not wait for perfect conditions. He acted in spite of them. He did not pray for someone to rescue him. He rose and ran, and in doing so, he shattered more than just athletic records. He shattered every expectation the world had placed upon him. His cycle of limitation was broken, not by opportunity, but by faith-driven action, and that same power lives in you. You may not have the best tools, you may not have the cleanest start, but you have something more powerful than certainty. You have the ability to believe, to see beyond your present, to speak in defiance of your past, to move forward without a map, trusting that vision is enough to guide the way. Faith does not wait. Faith moves. It stretches. It speaks. It acts. The cycle of limitation remains intact until faith breaks it apart with bold decisions. You want to change your life? Start by changing your assumptions. Stop looking for guarantees and start acting on belief. Speak as if the future is listening. Move as if destiny is watching. Live as though your very next decision will be the one that turns the tide. There is a place inside you that already knows this truth. You were not made to live confined. You were made to break the cycle, to change the narrative, to write a different ending. But the pen is only passed to those who dare to hold it. So stand, decide, believe, not when the stars align, not when the road is clear, not when the world agrees, but now, because every cycle ends the moment faith begins. 8. Your environment reflects what you permit. Your surroundings are not just backdrops. They are mirrors. They reveal what you tolerate, what you value, and ultimately, what you expect from yourself and the world around you. The state of your room reflects the state of your inner world. A cluttered desk often mirrors a cluttered mind. A chaotic schedule speaks of unclear priorities, and draining friendships are not isolated inconveniences. They are siphons of energy that stunt your growth. Psalm 1:1 says, "Blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly." It doesn't merely warn against sin, it warns against influence. Your counsel is your company. Your company becomes your climate, and your climate shapes your character. No seed can grow in the wrong soil, and no soul can rise in the wrong setting. It is not enough to want growth. Many people desire change, but desire without design leads to delusion. If you wish to grow, you must plant yourself in an environment where growth is not only possible, but probable. That requires pruning, cutting, rearranging. Start by taking inventory. Who in your life calls you higher? Who around you makes excuses feel comfortable? If the people you spend the most time with normalize mediocrity, soon your standards will drop to match their tone. If your conversations are filled with gossip, complaints, and distraction, don't be surprised when clarity escapes you. Environment is not just physical, it is relational and mental. What ideas are you exposing yourself to? What content do you consume when you're tired, bored, or overwhelmed? Your habits and surroundings speak to your future long before your results do. Rearrange your schedule. Create deliberate space for solitude. Stillness is not wasted time. It is when wisdom speaks loudest. Make room for reading, for reflection, for conversations that stretch you rather than sedate you. Design your day like an architect, not a victim of circumstance. Your calendar is your construction site. Find people who live in the frequency you desire, those who are not impressed by your potential but committed to your progress. The ones who challenge your complacency, not congratulate it. The company you keep will either catalyze your evolution or chain you to your old self. Andrew Carnegie understood this principle deeply. Born into poverty in a small Scottish town, Carnegie did not inherit riches, but he did inherit access to a mindset. He surrounded himself with books, with mentors, and with people who were builders of vision. He actively sought the company of thinkers, readers, and doers. Even when he had no money, he invested in his environment. Mr. Carnegie didn't allow his surroundings to be dictated by his origin. He curated them. He understood that steel wasn't the only thing forged under pressure, character was too. He filled his life with inputs that elevated, not diluted. Over time, that curated soil produced extraordinary fruit, not just in wealth but in legacy. You may not control where you began, but you are fully responsible for where you build. If your current environment whispers excuses, rearrange it until it shouts purpose. If your friendships drain you more than they develop you, it is time to edit your circle. This is not cruelty, it is clarity. The environment you create becomes your echo. Speak focus into it, and it will return productivity. Fill it with order, and it will echo peace. Populate it with visionaries, and it will mirror growth. Shift your surroundings, and soon you will hear a new set of instructions guiding your life. Take ownership. Redesign your landscape. Because the greatest change begins not in ambition, but in arrangement. And when your environment aligns with your elevation, the impossible starts to look inevitable. Now, discipline is the door you must walk through daily. Discipline is not punishment. It is preparation. It is not the heavy hand of restriction, but the guiding hand of refinement. Discipline is what takes raw, unformed desire and carves it into something sharp enough to pierce through resistance. It is the bridge between who you are and who you were born to become. Proverbs 13:4 captures it with piercing truth. The soul of the sluggard desireth, and hath nothing, but the soul of the diligent shall be made fat. Wanting is never enough. Dreams without discipline are delusions. Desire without diligence produces disappointment. You must not only want, you must do, and more importantly, you must do consistently. Discipline is the great separator. It distinguishes amateurs from artisans, dabblers from masters, the inspired from the accomplished. It is the deciding factor that transforms potential into performance. Many desire change. Most imagine success, but only the disciplined are willing to pay for it in effort, in time, and in sacrifice. To cultivate discipline, you need more than good intentions. You need anchors. These are the non-negotiables that give structure to your days. Anchors don't float, they hold you steady in storms. Establish your wake time. Block off daily reading hours. Track your finances with clarity. Journal your gratitude each night. These aren't burdens, they are tools. Repeated often enough, they construct a fortress of focus around your life. The goal of discipline isn't perfection, it's alignment. It is about crafting a life that supports your highest values. It is waking up with intent, acting with purpose, and closing your day with reflection. Discipline makes your time a servant of your goals instead of a thief of your potential. James J. Hill, the man who built the Great Northern Railway. Born into modest circumstances and lacking extensive formal education, Mr. Hill had every excuse to remain ordinary, but he chose differently. With relentless discipline, he taught himself logistics, finance, economics, and management. He read voraciously, studied relentlessly, and executed strategically. He didn't inherit expertise, he earned it, brick by brick, habit by habit. day by day. His empire wasn't built in a burst of light. It was forged through decades of focus. Discipline handed him the key to an empire, not overnight, but over many nights of quiet commitment. What could it hand you? Most people wait for motivation to arrive like a windfall, but discipline doesn't wait to feel right. It does what is right. Discipline shows up when it's hard. It writes the page when the mind is blank. It trains when the muscles ache. It saves when spending would feel good. Because discipline understands that the feeling of progress is worth more than the thrill of impulse. You will not drift into greatness. You must drive there. And your fuel is daily discipline. So ask yourself, what non-negotiables govern your day? What practices protect your focus? What habits are forming your future? You don't need more inspiration. You need more repetition. Because the life you want is not built in big gestures. It is constructed in small, silent commitments that no one sees but everyone will feel when they succeed. Let discipline be your preparation. Let it refine you. Let it shape your hours, your habits, your horizon. And one day you'll realize the price was worth it. Because discipline never takes more than it gives. 10. There is no destiny without decision. Everything in your life begins with a decision. Your habits, your mindset, your future, even your legacy are all born the moment you decide. Not when you hope, not when you wish, but when you choose. Potential, no matter how immense, is dormant until it is activated by choice. It does not move until you tell it to. Deuteronomy 30:19 delivers this truth without hesitation. I have set before you life and death, blessing and cursing, therefore choose life. Choice is not a suggestion, it is a command, a sacred invitation to participate in your own becoming. You were not placed here to drift. You were given a mind to think, a will to choose, and a soul to direct. Most people do not fail because they lack talent. They fail because they delay decisions. They wait for signs, for approval, for clarity wrapped in certainty. But life rarely delivers perfect conditions, and destiny does not knock twice. The path will not always be paved, but it will always be present. You must decide, and then become the proof of that decision. Every major transformation begins with a choice, a moment when someone decides that enough is enough. That average is no longer acceptable. That fear will not be the final voice. When you choose, you create a boundary. You separate your past from your future. You say, this is who I was, but this is who I will be. Start by choosing your values. Values anchor your actions when emotions fluctuate. Choose your mentors. Who you learn from determines what you learn. Choose your direction. And just as importantly, cut off what distracts. Clarity is not the absence of options, it is the presence of elimination. Clara Barton understood this well. During the chaos of the American Civil War, she didn't wait for someone to assign her purpose. She stepped into the mess. She brought supplies to the battlefield, cared for wounded soldiers, and later founded the American Red Cross. Barton didn't carry permission. She carried conviction. And through decision and devotion, she built something that would save millions. Her story teaches us this. The world does not hand you a legacy. You claim it through choice, through bold, consistent action in the direction of your value. Barton saw a need and answered it, not with hesitation, but with authority. You carry that same authority. It is not exclusive, it is divine. You were made in the image of a creator who chose to create, and that creative power is alive in you. Every time you hesitate, you surrender that authority. Every time you delay, you diminish your momentum. This moment matters, because this moment is a door. Every great journey begins with a single act of choice. Will you walk through it, or will you wait for life to give you a guarantee it never promises? Decide. Decide to believe you are more than your history. Decide to train your mind. Decide to lead your emotions instead of being led by them. Decide to speak life into your future, even when your present speaks otherwise, because decisions define direction, and direction determines destiny. You don't need more time, you need more resolve. You don't need the perfect conditions, you need the decision to move forward anyway. Everything you desire is downstream from a decision you've been avoiding. So choose boldly, choose now, choose life, because your destiny isn't coming someday. It's been waiting all along. The power to transform your life exists within you right now, not tomorrow, not when conditions improve. Now, this very moment contains within it the seed of everything you wish to become. Water it with decisive action. Nurture it with unwavering persistence. Watch as it grows into a life that others call extraordinary, but you'll recognize as the natural expression of your authentic potential.